The silence that followed my husband's funeral wasn't the peaceful kind. It didn't feel like the quiet after a long, difficult storm. Instead, it felt like the heavy, suffocating stillness before a landslide. My name is Elena, and for 24 years, I was the heart of the Sterling household. I was the woman who turned Arthur's cold, marble mansion into a home, the woman who stood by him through 3 heart scares and the final, grueling battle with cancer. But to his sons, Julian and Marcus, I was nothing more than a temporary occupant in a space they were eager to reclaim. The funeral flowers were still wilting in the foyer when they staged their first invasion. I was sitting in Arthur's study, surrounded by the scent of old leather and expensive tobacco, the only things left of him. The chair I sat in was his favorite, a high-backed wing chair that always seemed to wrap around you like a protective embrace. Now it felt too large, as if I were shrinking into the upholstery. Julian, the eldest at 46, walked in first. He was a carbon copy of Arthur in appearance, the same sharp jawline, the same piercing blue eyes, but he lacked his father's soul. He was a high-stakes corporate litigator in the city, a man who viewed every human interaction as a deposition. Behind him trailed Marcus, the sensitive, younger brother who had spent his life failing at various consulting ventures while living off his father's generosity. "Helena," Julian said, his voice as sharp as his tailored suit. "We need to handle the logistics. We can't let sentimentality delay the inevitable." Marcus stood by the window, refusing to look at me. "It's about the legacy, Elena. Dad would want things settled quickly so we can all move on, I whispered. My voice felt brittle. "Arthur has been in the ground for 72 hours. I haven't even finished thanking the hospice nurses." Julian ignored my pain. He placed a heavy, obsidian black folder on the mahogany desk, Arthur's desk. "The reality is this: the Sterling estate is complex. The properties, the holding companies, the diversified interests, they require professional management. We've reviewed the primary will from 5 years ago." My heart skipped a beat. Arthur and I spoke about his plans many times. He told me I would be looked after. He promised me the house. Julian's smile was a cold, clinical thing. Dad's intentions may have been noble, but his legal execution was specific. According to the document we have, the main estate in Fairhaven, valued at roughly $5 million, goes to Marcus and me. The coastal retreat in Maine, also ours. The Sterling Group shares, divided between us. I felt the air leave the room, and me. Where do I go? Marcus finally turned around, his eyes filled with a hollow, rehearsed pity. "There's a supplemental insurance policy, Elena. $150,000. It's a generous sum for a fresh start. And, of course, Julian and I have agreed to give you 3 weeks to vacate the premises." 3 weeks, I gasped. "I've lived here for nearly a quarter of a century. This is my home, legally," Julian corrected. "It is an asset of the Sterling Trust, an asset you no longer have a claim to." But the true blow came next. Julian pulled out a second sheet of paper. "Then there's the matter of the end of life expenses. Between the private nursing, the experimental treatments, and the specialized equipment, there is an outstanding balance of nearly $200,000. Since you were the primary signatory on his medical directives, the creditors are looking to you. The estate is tied up in probate, and under the terms of the trust, these personal medical debts are not the responsibility of the heirs." I looked at the numbers. They had calculated it perfectly. The insurance money wouldn't even cover the debt they were dumping on me. They weren't just taking my home, they were making sure I left with less than nothing. They wanted me erased. "I need time," I said, my voice barely a tremor. "Time is a luxury the market doesn't afford," Julian replied, clicking his pen. "We'll have the formal transfer papers ready by Friday. Sign them, and we won't contest the insurance payout. Refuse, and we'll tie you up in court until you're penniless." They left me there, in the deepening shadows of the study. For hours, I didn't move. I felt like a ghost haunting my own life. I looked at the desk, at the small brass lamp Arthur used to keep on while I read in the corner. My hand brushed against the side of the desk, and I felt a small, irregular bump in the wood, a hidden latch Arthur had shown me years ago, one he used for emergencies. I pressed it. A small drawer, no bigger than a matchbox, clicked open. Inside was a vintage silver pocket watch. It had been Arthur's grandfather's. I opened the back casing, expecting to see the ticking gears, but instead I found a small, intricately carved key and a tiny scrap of paper with a hand-written address 1142 Ironwood Lane. The next morning, my lawyer, a man named Henderson who had been a friend of ours for years, practically begged me to fight. "Elena, this will they're presenting is ancient by legal standards. We can contest it. We can drag this out for years. You were his wife. And what would I be at the end of those years, Henderson?" I asked, a bitter woman who spent her final act of love fighting over a pile of bricks. "No, I have another plan." I didn't tell him about the key. Something told me that Arthur had created a path just for me, one that required me to walk it alone. I drove to 1142 Ironwood Lane. It wasn't a bank or a lawyer's office. It was a dusty, nondescript building in the old industrial district. Inside was a private vault service, the kind used by people who didn't trust traditional institutions. The manager, a silver-haired man who looked like he'd seen a century's worth of secrets, led me to a private room. When I turned the key in box number 80 or 22, my life changed. The box was filled with folders, but not the kind Julian would have recognized. These were full of photographs, bank transcripts, and private investigator reports. At the very top was a letter in Arthur's bold, elegant script. "My dearest Elena, if you are reading this, I am no longer there to hold your hand, and my sons have proven to be the men I feared they would become. I spent years hoping they would find their own way, but greed is a hunger that is never satisfied. I knew that once I was gone, they would try to strip you of everything. They think they are the hunters, but they've forgotten who taught them how to track. Everything they showed you, the will, the debts, the properties, it's all part of a game they think they've won. But I've been moving the pieces for a long time. In this box, you will find the truth about Julian's legal, career, and Marcus's investments. You will also find the keys to a life they can never touch. Be patient. Let them think they have won. Sign the papers they give you, and then, my love, show them what a sterling woman is truly made of." I spent the next 6 hours reading. I learned that Julian hadn't just been practicing law. He had been laundering money for a development firm that was currently under federal investigation. I learned that Marcus hadn't been consulting. He had been running a sophisticated Ponzi scheme that used Arthur's name to lure in unsuspecting retirees. And then I found the final document, the real will. It was dated only 3 weeks before Arthur's passing. It didn't just leave me the house. It revealed that the states Julian and Marcus were so hungry for were actually hollowed out. Arthur had taken out massive, predatory loans against every single property the boys thought they were inheriting. The assets were actually liabilities disguised as gold. The real wealth, the liquid capital, the offshore accounts, the 5 Karat diamonds Arthur had bought over the years, had all been moved into a private foundation in my name. The following Friday, the final hearing was held at Julian's high-rise office. The room smelled of expensive cologne and arrogance. Julian and Marcus sat across from me, looking like kings who had just secured their border. "You've made the right choice, Elena," Julian said, pushing the pile of legal documents toward me. "By signing these, you waive all future claims to the Sterling estate. In exchange, we provide the insurance payout and waive the right to sue you for the medical arrears." "I just want it to be over," I said, playing the part of the broken widow to perfection. My hand shook slightly as I picked up the pen. Henderson, my lawyer, looked like he wanted to jump out the window. "Elena, please reconsider. This is your life you're signing away." "It's just paper, Henderson," I whispered. I signed my name on every line. I watched the joy spread across Julian's face, a predatory, ugly kind of joy. Marcus actually chuckled. "Well," Julian said, standing up and buttoning his jacket, We'll have our people contact you about the moving date. We've already listed the Fairhaven house. We have a buyer interested in turning it into a boutique hotel. Actually, I said, my voice suddenly clear and resonant. Before you go, there's a small matter of the disclosures. You see, when you inherit a property in this state, you also inherit the encumbrances attached to the deed. It's a standard legal principle, Julian. Surely a litigator of your stature knows that. Julian stopped, his brow furrowed. What are you talking about? I pulled a small folder from my bag, the one from the hidden vault. This is a record of the secondary and tertiary mortgages Arthur took out on Fairhaven, the main retreat, and the Sterling Group offices, totaling about $8 million. He used the properties as collateral to fund a charitable foundation that focuses on protecting the elderly from financial abuse. The interest rates on these loans are, well, they're quite aggressive. The silence in the room became cold. That's impossible, Marcus stammered. The title searches were clear. Arthur had a very clever way of filing paperwork through shell corporations, I said, leaning back. The lions only activate upon the transfer of the title to anyone other than myself. By signing those papers just now, I transferred the titles to you. And by doing so, I activated the debt. Julian grabbed the papers, his face turning a sickly shade of gray. He flipped through the pages, his eyes darting frantically. This can't be. This would bankrupt us, Dow. Oh, it gets worse. I continued, my voice smooth as silk. I also have the records of the consulting fees Marcus took from those pensioners, and the offshore accounts Julian used for the development firm. It turns out, when you're the head of a charitable foundation dedicated to financial justice, you have a legal obligation to report such things to the authorities. Marcus slumped into his chair. Julian looked like he was about to have a stroke. You trapped us? Julian hissed. Our own father trapped us. No, I said, standing up. He gave you exactly what you wanted. You wanted the estate. You wanted the business. You wanted everything. Well, now you have it. You have the houses, the offices, and the names. You just have to figure out how to pay for them. I walked toward the door, but paused at the threshold. One more thing. The medical bills you tried to dump on me. Arthur paid those months ago. He just kept the invoices in the system to see if you'd try to use them against me. He told me that greed is a hunger that is never satisfied. I think he was right. I walked out of that office and never looked back. I moved to a small, beautiful cottage by the sea, not the main retreat, but a place Arthur had bought for me in secret years ago. It was filled with light and the sound of the waves. I spent my mornings in the garden and my afternoons working with the foundation. Julian and Marcus lost everything. The houses were foreclosed on, the business collapsed under the weight of the debt, and the legal repercussions of their own crimes kept them in court for years. They reached out to me once, a desperate, pathetic email asking for a loan. To help them get back on their feet, I didn't reply. Some lessons are only learned when you're forced to sleep in the bed you made. Years have passed since that day in the office. I am older now, but I have never felt more alive. I often sit on my porch with a glass of tea, watching the sun dip below the horizon. I still wear the silver pocket watch. Sometimes I click it open and look at the gears turning, steady, relentless, and perfectly timed. Arthur didn't just save my life. He taught me how to live it. He taught me that justice isn't always found in a courtroom. Sometimes it's found in a hidden drawer, in a small key, and in the quiet strength of a woman who knows exactly what she's worth. As for the brothers, the last I heard, Marcus was working as a clerk in a hardware store, and Julian was doing document review for a cut-rate firm living in a one-bedroom apartment. They have the sterling name, but they have none of the sterling spirit. I often think about the city you're watching this from. I wonder if you've ever seen someone try to take what isn't theirs, only to find that the prize was a poison. Life has a way of balancing the scales, doesn't it? I'm Elena, and this was my story of how I lost everything, only to find that I had been given the world, Thank you for staying with me until the very end. Your support means everything to me. If this story touched you, if it made you think about the people in your own life, please leave a comment and tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing how far these words can travel. And remember, never underestimate the person who sits quietly in the corner. They might just be waiting for the right moment to turn the key. The ocean breeze is cold tonight, but my heart is warm. I think I'll go inside now and light a fire. There's a new book I've been meaning to start, and the house is finally, truly quiet. The good kind of quiet. The kind that belongs to a woman who is finally free. Before I go, I want to leave you with one thought. My husband always said that wealth isn't what you have in your bank account, it's who you have in your corner. I was lucky. I had a man who loved me enough to fight for me from beyond the grave. But more than that, I learned to fight for myself. And that, my friends, is the greatest inheritance of all. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. I'll see you in the next story. There are so many more to tell, so many secrets to uncover, and so much more life to live. Good night. The fire crackles in the hearth, casting long, dancing shadows against the walls of my cottage. Outside, the tide is coming in, a rhythmic, pulsing reminder that the world keeps moving, no matter what we lose or gain. I look at a photo of Arthur on the mantel. He's laughing, the wind catching his hair, looking like a man who knew a secret the rest of the world hadn't figured out yet. I smile back at him. We did it, Arthur. I whisper, the foundation is thriving. Last week we helped a woman named Claire. She was 82 and her nephew had tried to sign her house over to himself while she was in the hospital. We got her home back. We got her peace back. Every time we win a case like that, I feel Arthur's hand on my shoulder. My life isn't perfect, but it is mine. Every choice, every sunrise, every flower in my garden, it all belongs to me. I think back to the woman I was, trembling in that leather chair, and I barely recognize her. She was a widow. I am a survivor. She was a victim. I am a guardian. If you're facing your own Julian or Marcus, right now, don't lose hope. Don't let their loud voices make you feel small. Truth has a way of surfacing, and strength isn't always about who hits the hardest. It's about who can stand the longest. I'm going to sit here for a while longer, just watching the flames. It's peaceful. It's quiet. It's home. Thank you for being part of my journey. I hope my story gives you the courage to look for your own hidden keys. You never know what doors they might open. Until next time. The journey of the Sterling legacy didn't end with the bankruptcy of two greedy sons. It lived on in the lives of the hundreds of people the foundation helped. It lived on in the scholarship funds Arthur had quietly set up for the children of his employees. It lived on in me. I remember one afternoon, about a year after the settlement, I was walking along the beach when I saw a young boy trying to build a sandcastle. The tide was coming in, and his father was helping him dig a moat to protect his work. "It's going to fall, Dad," the boy said, tears in his eyes. "Maybe," the father replied, "but we'll build it better next time, and we'll build it further back from the water." I stopped and watched them. It was a simple moment, but it hit me with the force of a tidal wave. Arthur hadn't just been protecting me. He had been rebuilding our foundation further back from the water. He had been ensuring that when the storm came, my castle would stand. I realized then that grief is like the ocean. It comes in waves. Sometimes it's a gentle lap at your feet, and sometimes it's a crashing surge that threatens to pull you under. But if you have a solid place to stand, you can weather any tide. Julian and Marcus had built their lives on the shifting sands of other people's money and their father's reputation. They never learned how to dig their own moats. They never learned how to build something that could survive the rising tide. I'm often asked if I hate them. People expect me to be filled with a simmering rage after what they tried to do. But honestly, I don't have the energy for hate. Hate is a heavy thing to carry, and I've spent enough of my life carrying the weight of their expectations. I feel a profound sense of pity for them. They had everything: a father who loved them, a home filled with warmth, and a future full of potential. They threw it all away for a few more zeros in a bank account that was never theirs to begin with. They are the poorest wealthy men I've ever known. My life now is filled with different kinds of riches. I have a neighbor, Mrs. Gable, who brings me fresh sourdough bread every Tuesday. I have a dog named Barnaby, a scruffy golden retriever who thinks he's a lap dog. I have the gratitude of the families I helped through the foundation. I've started painting again, too. Arthur always encouraged me, but I never felt I had the time. Now, my sunroom is filled with canvases. Most of them are of the sea, the way the light hits the water at dawn, the deep indigo of a storm, the soft pinks of a summer sunset. It's my way of capturing the world's constant motion. I'm not the woman I was 20 years ago. I'm not even the woman I was at the funeral. I am someone new, forged in the fire of betrayal and tempered by the cool water of justice. So, as I close this chapter of my story, I want to ask you something. If you were to find a hidden key today, what would you hope it opens? Is it a door to the past or a gateway to a future you've been too afraid to imagine? Whatever it is, I hope you have the courage to turn it. The stars are out now, a million tiny pinpricks of light in the velvet sky. It's a big world, and I'm just one small part of it. But for the first time, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. And most of all, thank you for being the kind of people who value the truth. This is Elena, signing off from my little corner of the coast. May your heart be light, your path be clear, and your keys always find their locks. Good night, everyone. The foundation grew beyond my wildest dreams. Within 3 years, we had opened branches in 4 different states. We weren't just providing legal aid anymore. We were lobbying for new laws to protect the vulnerable. I found myself standing in front of legislative committees, sharing the story of what happened to me and what happens to thousands of others who don't have a hidden key waiting for them. I remember one specific hearing. A young senator asked me, "Mrs. Sterling, why do you dedicate so much of your own personal wealth to this? You could be traveling the world, living in luxury." I looked him in the eye and said, "Senator, I've lived in luxury and I've traveled the world, but I've also looked into the eyes of a woman who was told she had 3 weeks to leave the only home she ever knew. There is no luxury that can compare to the feeling of telling that woman, 'Not today.'" The room was silent. I think, for a moment, they saw the steel that Arthur had seen in me. Julian and Marcus became a cautionary tale in the city's legal circles. The sterling debt became a shorthand for anyone who tried to be too clever with their inheritance. They faded into the background noise of the world, just 2 more men who had everything and realized too late that they had nothing. I heard through a mutual acquaintance that Marcus eventually reached out to a local church for help. He started working in their community garden. Part of me hopes he finds some peace there. Maybe in the dirt and the weeds, he'll finally learn what it means to grow something for himself. Julian remained bitter. He moved from city to city, trying to outrun his reputation, but Google is a harsh mistress. His past followed him everywhere. He's still a lawyer, but he handles small claims and traffic tickets in a town I've never heard of. He still wears his expensive suits, but they're frayed at the cuffs now. As for Henderson, he became the lead counsel for the foundation. He told me once, over a celebratory dinner, "Elena, I've never been so happy to be wrong in my entire life. I thought you were surrendering. I didn't realize you were just reloading." We laughed, but we both knew it was true. My cottage has become a sanctuary. Sometimes, when the foundation work gets too heavy, I sit in my garden and just breathe. The roses are in full bloom now, deep crimsons and soft creams. They smell like heaven. I've started writing a book, not about the drama or the money, but about the lessons I learned, about the importance of knowing your worth before someone else tries to tell you what it is, about the power of silence, about the way love can protect you even when it's gone. I'm calling it The Hidden Latch. I hope it helps people. I hope it reminds them that they aren't defined by their losses. Life is a strange, beautiful, and often cruel journey. We don't get to choose how it starts, and we rarely get to choose how it ends. But we do get to choose how we walk the path in between. I chose to walk it with my head held high. With Arthur's watch in my pocket and a fire in my soul, I look at the clock on the wall. It's late. Time for me to turn in. But before I go, I want to say one more thank you to everyone who has watched this story, who has commented, who has shared their own experiences. You are the reason I tell these stories. You are the reason the truth matters. Don't let anyone ever tell you that you're just anything. You aren't just a wife or just an employee or just a widow. You are a force of nature. Keep your keys close. Keep your heart open. And never, ever sign anything without looking for the hidden latch first. This is Elena, and I am finally at peace. Good night, and may your dreams be as bold as your heart. The years continue to pass as years tend to do. My hair is entirely silver now, and my joints ache a little more when the fog is heavy. But my eyes, they are still the eyes of the woman who walked out of that boardroom with her dignity intact. I've begun to think about my own legacy. Not the money, that's all handled by the trust, but the things that really matter. I've started mentoring young women who are entering the world of business and law. I tell them to be smart, to be brave, and to always have a backup plan. I tell them that a sterling reputation is built on integrity, not on a bank balance. One of my mentees, a brilliant girl named Maya, asked me recently if I ever missed my old life. The mansion, the parties, the prestige. I thought about it for a long time. I thought about the velvet curtains and the crystal chandeliers. Then I thought about the fear I felt every time Arthur's sons walked into a room. I thought about the loneliness of living in a house where I was seen as an interloper. No, Maya, I told her. I don't miss a single thing. Because in that house, I was a guest. In this cottage, I am the queen. She smiled, and I saw a spark in her that reminded me of myself. It's a good feeling, knowing that the fire is being passed on. The foundation is in good hands. Maya will likely take over one day, and I know she'll run it with the same passion and fairness that I have. I still go to Fairhaven once a year. The new owners did turn it into a hotel, and it's quite lovely, actually. I stay in the room that used to be Arthur's study. They've kept the original mahogany desk. I like to sit there and look out at the grounds, remembering the good times we had. The Christmas mornings, the quiet Sunday brunches, the way Arthur would look at me when he thought I wasn't watching. I don't feel sad when I'm there. I feel a sense of completion. The house is full of life again, full of laughter and travelers and new stories. It's no longer a monument to a dying legacy. It's a living place, and that's how it should be. As I sit here tonight, writing these final words, I feel a sense of profound gratitude. For Arthur, for the lessons, for the struggles, and even for Julian and Marcus. Without them, I never would have discovered who I truly am. I never would have found my own voice. Life is a gift, even the hard parts. Especially the hard parts. So, wherever you are, whatever you're going through, just remember the story isn't over yet. You're just in the middle of a chapter. Keep turning the pages. There's something beautiful waiting for you on the other side. I think I'll take Barnaby for a walk on the beach now. The moon is full, and the sand will be cool under my feet. It's a perfect night for a stroll. Thank you for being part of my life. Thank you for listening to my story. Be well, be strong, and always, always trust your instincts. Good night. One last thought before I go. People often ask me what the most important thing Arthur left me was. They think it was the foundation, or the secret accounts, or the diamonds, but it wasn't. The most important thing he left me was the realization that I was enough. Before he died, I always saw myself in relation to him. I was Arthur's wife. I was the boy's stepmother. I was the hostess of the Sterling mansion. I was a supporting character in someone else's epic. When he gave me that key and that letter, he wasn't just giving me money. He was giving me the lead role. He was telling me, Elena, you are the hero of this story. I'm just the one who gave you the opening scene. That's the secret, you know. We're all the heroes of our own stories. We just sometimes get so caught up in the dialogue of others that we forget we're the ones holding the pen. So, take your pen, write your own ending. Make it a bold one. Make it a happy one. Make it yours. The tide is high now and the air is salt sweet. Barnaby is waiting by the door, his tail thumping against the floor. He knows it's time, and so do I. Goodbye, my friends. It's been a pleasure.